We'd like to get started with our work meeting of the Morgan City Council, August 27th, 2024. 6:03, that's pretty close to 6. Okay, number one, amending the zoning designation of a parcel of property. I'm just going to refer to Gary or to Jake or both. Yeah.
That's for the rezone. Okay.
And you'll give me just a minute. I'm gonna pull up my staff report that you received a copy of on Friday. It's for 77 acres and it is in the southwest part of the city. And the current use is agriculture. There's some fields out there. I'm not gonna tell you what crop it is because I'll get it wrong. But it's a nice crop. I went and looked at it and it's green. What? Um, I don't know if that grows up here, but
It does.
okay, there's a number of ditches that go through it. And then on the south part of the property is the East Canyon Creek. And the current zoning is agriculture. And also it is within the city boundary. So we're not annexing, but it does go up against the city boundary on the south end. So just 1 minute here, pulling that up. Yes, if you don't mind, send me a link. Last week it was at the Planning Commission. We had a public hearing and one member of the public came to speak about it. He was somewhat opposed, but his biggest concern was that only he was there and also that he felt like it wasn't adequately noticed. He was informed that it followed the city ordinance, the state code, and our typical protocol. But no, we didn't deliver handwritten door-to-door notes. Like maybe they wanted, but and the opposition was really more about just, things changing, going from, nice open fields to homes. You want to let me in, Teresa? You're good. Okay. There's the same report that you received. Just gonna go to the maps here because that always seems to help. So this is the property right here. Rather large for Morgan City for an annexation. Sorry, thank you for the correction. Wait, I just told you it was in the city. Thank you for the correction. So rather large for a rezone, 77 acres. And the proposal by the applicant is that the north part is R110 and for the south part, R112. And I'll show that here in a minute. Here is on the south, this is East Canyon Creek. And then we got 525 West here on the east. And then also we have 400 West, 350 West. And then also the opportunity to connect in through this property. And then future connections on the west to Webster. 400, thank you. So the area that's requested as R110, which is 10,000 square foot lots, is the north property. And the north area. And it's not exact parcels that are requested at, per zoning, it's specific areas. And then also a legal description. And the legal description is what matters. And our city engineer did check the legal descriptions and they correspond to what the applicant has proposed on a map. So the north area is proposed to R110. South area is proposed to R112. And this pink line, that's kind of the difference there, splitting the two. The area is flat, no slope issues. However, on the south, there are some wetlands or floodplain, and it is in the sensitive lands.
So I got one question, go to that other map.
Yes,
That white line going through the middle,
yes.
is that what they're talking about developing right now?
That's a parcel, it's a property line.
So it goes all the way over.
All that would be our.
Yeah.
All that's our.
Yeah, while it's unofficial, I think the discussion is they're looking at the north property first.
I knew there was something there.
Yeah. And just a reminder, this is a rezone, not an official application for development. Of course, development typically follows a rezone, but the decision tonight is for a rezone. This shows you the existing zoning. So the property is agriculture A. On the right side or the east side, we have R110. And then also we have R112, and then we have R18, which effectively is R110 in the city. And then we have R112 on the north. And then we have R120, 20,000 square foot lots, just kind of touching the corner up here. And then ag here on the west.
Great piece up there on the map right there. I can't read that. It does say R110.
The gray piece in here. Oh, the RR? Oh, yes. Yeah, right here. The purple is rural residential.
That piece right there.
This one?
Yes, yes.
R110, R110. Even though you can tell the lots, most of them are rather large, probably quite a bit larger. This one, yeah, okay. I don't know all the names as well as you do. So there's no single zoning. Sorry. That's all I can say. Lawyers, let's make them our work. There's no single zoning surrounding it, it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. But it is all residential and the proposed use is residential. And also, sometimes people get upset about spot zoning. They say, oh, you have one zone here, one zone there. As long as it's in the general size area and in the vicinity, then it typically works. When you drive through an area, you don't say, oh, I'm in R110. I just walked across the street. I'm in R120. My neighbors live in R110. I'm not going to talk to them. And so sometimes people get hung up a little bit on these little different zones. But certainly this area has transitioned probably over the last 5-10 years, particularly with the RUPS into residential single-family lots. But there is a case to be made that R110 is not completely against, the proposed R110 is not completely against the rest of R112. However, Morgan is evolving and changing. And we do have a new general plan, and we'll get to that in a minute, how that lines up. So this is the map that was submitted with the application. Kind of shows you the area north, the R110, and then the proposed area as R112 on the south. And I flipped their map because I just want to keep everything north-south for consistency. And actually, so this was the original one provided with the application, and then they provided a second map because the original one didn't match the legal descriptions. So little error tweak on their part, but because the original application had the legal description for the area they're proposing, then we're okay in accepting that. Okay, so this is the general plan adopted this year. The area on the right, or kind of the sandy tan area, that is MDR, medium density residential. We have that as 3 to 5 units an acre gross. So including roads and utilities in that, which actually makes the lots a little bit smaller because it's a gross acreage. And then LDR, low density residential on the west, southwest in the yellow.
That's what, 1 to 3?
And yes, that's 2 to 3. Yep, 2 to 3. And this is included in the packet was the text from the general plan, kind of describing those. And then this is how it matches up with in terms of what was suggested. So there is a variation there from the general plan and the proposal. General plan, of course, is general. It's advisory. It doesn't have to be followed exactly. And in some cases, it follows property lines. In other cases, it doesn't. In this case, it doesn't. Just the idea of as we move towards the outside of the town, we're going down in density typically. And so that shows you where I don't see a lot of heartburn or issue in that the proposed 2 different projects don't line up exactly with the general plan, and we're talking basically 1 lot difference, 1 to 2 lots. It is, and especially if you were going to zoom out and look at the whole city, it would be very close. But again, the general plan is general, it's advisory. It's meant to be interpreted. Now you have this document, it's the city's big picture vision. Now your role as the city council is to say, does this match our vision that we created? And what we could do afterwards, we could come back, if you approve it, saying if, we could come back and update the map. We could leave it as is. We could tweak it next time we do an update with the general plan as well. Not any of the above work. And we've also talked about in the future that maybe we just include a policy change with a map update at the same time. So if you want to just update it as you go, we might do that in the future, but we wouldn't do that for this case.
Okay.
Yes.
So in this case, in this particular zone change, does the medium density on the general plan, is it encroach a little on the low density as far as this is concerned? Did that make sense?
Repeat that again. Yes.
Say that does the medium density kind of encroach upon the low density, or is it the other way?
It's the other way. So the general plan the general plan, low density encroaches on what's being requested as a higher density. So, but they do, the MDR does match up with the R110 and the LDR does match up with the R112 in terms of numbers. And that's in the report as well.
So they come to apply for the zone, right? No. They don't necessarily have to show the subdivision. What if they want to go to a portion of a mixed use residential?
They can't. How they could come back and ask for the MRO, but that's an entirely different new process.
But yeah, that would be another meeting to zone it differently than they zone.
Yes, so this changes the base zoning. And if approved, and only if, then they could build R110, R112. If in the future they wanted to look at the mixed residential overlay, they could come back and do a new application. It would be a new public hearing, and that's an entirely new decision. I wouldn't, because they haven't applied for it, I wouldn't, they can do that. But I wouldn't, I would not make your decision tonight based off of that. Okay.
If that was the case, and we make this zone change tonight, and hypothetically, if they came back with an MRO, there wouldn't be another new zone change, right? I mean, there would?
Yeah, it would.
Well, yes, because
Why?
it's an overlay.
Yeah, but
So
I
it's
thought.
like a zone on a zone. So the base zone would stay the same. And then the MRO would be on top. So
I thought-
with the Nye development, we had to change a CC to a GC, I think is what it was. And so but on the zoning map, how it looks now with the Nye MRO is whatever the base zoning is, which is RM 15 and you know, our 15 units an acre multifamily, and then the commercial, and then on top of that is the MRO. So that's kind of how an overlay works, is that you can essentially put it on top of the base zone.
So can I explain this a little bit?
I'm confused.
So
Go ahead, Gary.
the MRO is what we call a floating zone, and it floats above the city.
Right.
And when a developer sees, he's got to have the right underlying zone. If he doesn't, agriculture is not the right,
But,
right underlying
can I
zone.
stop right there? But isn't R110 and R112, doesn't that fit under the MRO?
does.
Yes.
It does.
So why would they have to rezone?
So if they want to pull this down,
Yes,
they've got to rezone. They've got to do a rezone, because this is a different zone. It's a floating zone. It comes down, it's what they call an overlay zone. And so it floats over the city. It may never be pulled down by a developer. But if a developer wants to pull it down, it is a legislative act, not an administrative act, like your normal subdivisions are administrative acts. And you've got your subdivision rules. And if they come in with just a square subdivision, you know, a subdivision like every other subdivision, really the planning commission approves that, and final approval is at that level. It's no longer at the level of the city council. An overlay zone is different. It is actually a legislative act. And it almost seems like it skirts the subdivision ordinance a little bit, but it doesn't. The reason it doesn't is because under state law, they said, we'd like to encourage these things because they encourage a mix of housing. And so we'll let that can be a zone change, which is a legislative act. But it literally is another zone that you bring down on top of these two zones. So all of the provisions regarding those two zones apply, but in addition to that, so do all the provisions of the floating zone. So it's like a sensitive lands ordinance as well, very, very much, you know, like sensitive lands ordinance, where you have a certain set of regulations that come down and apply to the underlying zone that wouldn't apply if they just came in with just a normal. And the reason we do that, Tony, is it's because you have flexibility at your level. You remember when we put into place an MRO zone, we said those need to come before the council because the densities are spread out. Sometimes the open space is spread out. You couldn't do that with just a plain subdivision. You have to have all of your regulations in the subdivision ordinance. If you're just going to do a plain subdivision, that's state law. Subdivisions have to be administrative unless you want to try something like the mixed zone, the MRO zone. That can be a floating zone and you do pull it down and its conditions are imposed on top of the zoning conditions of the ground zone.
Okay, so, I'm sorry.
No,
I wanna get
good
clear on
question.
this.
These are really good questions.
So when we approved MROs, okay, we said that MROs can exist in these zones. I don't remember them all, R110, R112.
Yes.
There was some zones that what was it, like, industrial or,
Industrial ag,
yeah,
I think even RR and maybe R120, but certainly the very large.
if somebody came in, say, on an ag that was not in our MRO ordinance, if they wanted to pull down an MRO on top of an ag, they'd first have to change that ag zone to, and that's exactly what we did with NICE, right, with the commercial zone?
Correct.
All right, okay.
And,
And what we're doing tonight, going from agriculture to something else.
right,
Correct. If you choose to.
If we do it.
But if I wanted MRO in one of those that weren't sanctioned as under our ordinance as an MRO zone, you first would have to change that zone before you even started
Correct, yeah,
to work.
the base zoning would change.
Okay,
So that's what I was getting at is
All right.
it's agricultural, we're changing the zone.
got that.
They couldn't just put an MRO above agriculture without
Correct.
changing the zone like they're doing.
Correct.
and the reason is because we believe the council needs to say in the MRO zone, MRO type zones.
Okay, so we changed the zone tonight to R110, R112. And now I'm back to my original question. Hypothetically, they want to come and do an MRO. They have to come in and apply again for the MRO zone. They'd have to have another zone change, right?
Correct.
All right.
And that zone change would be very, very, very particular. It would have a lot of particulars in it because it is almost like a subdivision ordinance, except a super subdivision ordinance with flexibility on your part to change things.
So let's say the council didn't approve it, then it just stays what it is.
Correct.
But
Ag.
is that a problem in the future?
If it stayed agricultural,
No, if it,
if it just stayed.
let's just take another subdivision that's
Mhm,
contemplating that.
mhm,
It's zoned R1, whatever it is,
mhm.
and now they want MRO. If they come to the council and the council says we don't really want that in that area,
Mhm.
what does that run into?
So
Nice, they
the
are
nice thing
working.
about it,
Got lawsuits?
that's also the nice thing about legislative acts, right? Is they're very discretionary on your part. So you could say, I mean, you got to have some parameters around your decision and you do have the purpose of an MRO zone, that type of thing. But literally you could say no to an MRO zone and they would still have all their rights in the R112 and the R110, right? You could say, no, sorry, we don't think our MRO is good for that area. We just don't.
So the talk's been that the MRO was sort of for the inner part of the city,
Infill.
Infill,
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 like playing first base kind of thing. Okay, so
infill.
Okay,
Good infield.
infill,
Oh, yeah, infill.
FILL?
Yes.
Okay. So you have that chat going on, especially in the mayor's ears recently. So this lower portion of this property is on the outskirts of the city. The upper portion towards Island Road is not. So can you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, what you're saying is, could part of it come in and apply for an MRO? And could we deny the other part if it came in? Because of that phrase in the MRO ordinance that says that we favor this more in infill areas than we do in other areas. And the answer is, yeah, you could. If that were your only reason, I think you probably not. I mean, I think you want to question it. Because you have a lot of discretion as to whether or not, you don't have to have all of those conditions existing. You just have to feel good that this is the area where an MRO would be a plus for the city. But yeah, you put that in there. Those are those parameters that we talked about, where you put some parameters in there. They don't have to meet all of them. A rezone can be for any rational basis, essentially. And what you've done is you put some rational basis in there by saying infill, areas where it would fit, where you've got proper connections, you've got a number of things in there.
Yeah, if you remember when we were kind of finalizing the language of the MRO, there was the discussion about pulling the language about infill. That's what Denise actually showed me the minutes on that. So there is minutes of your discussion saying maybe we pull that requirement. We ended up leaving it in. It wasn't a big, we didn't spend a lot of time on it, and it wasn't necessarily let's focus in and dive into this issue. But that was discussed by the council of actually removing the infill language. And maybe the only purpose there was just to have more flexibility. And with a city like Morgan, you do have infill, but not necessarily a lot of it. I mean, it's a small city, and you can go from the perimeter to the center really quick.
Yeah.
Within a mile, and it's hard to say this is infill and this isn't. I think that was one of the discussion items, is it's hard to say exactly where that is. But I'm gonna keep going with the report, if that's okay. So it is, this property is in the sensitive lands area, so here on the south. So if they did apply for, this doesn't affect a rezone, but if they did apply for a subdivision, it would apply, and they would have to meet all the requirements of the sensitive lands, which actually could preclude them from having development there. They'd have to go through a separate process to handle that. And it's also within the well recharge area, this big kind of circle. And there are requirements that come to all developments within the well recharge area.
So
this-
what, that big circle around the well, the
Yes.
orange,
Source protection.
Yep, source protection.
or is it?
It
the red
it
around
does
the blue?
allow development. The RUPS is within it as well.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it does allow development. There's just certain things that have to be analyzed and
Okay.
checked off. So, but
Alright.
it doesn't preclude it. And I'm not an expert on that. I just want to mention that. So this is our transportation map. This is the transportation map from the general plan, and it does show some street connections through this property. And we would want to make sure, if it were developed, that these connections happen along with other connections. And then this is a park map from the general plan, and I just bring it up because it does show that we do have essentially kind of a park deficiency on the west side. There's no parks out here, and so there certainly is a need for a park out there. By law, we cannot require parks. We can't require parklands. However, the city can talk with the landowners and developers and negotiate something. Also, the general plan calls for a trail along East Canyon Creek. And in a similar fashion, we cannot require trails, but again, we can ask for trails, we can work with them, we can get grants to build it. There's all kinds of options, but I think it's important to bring up. And once a corridor is gone, it's very difficult. You think about the south side of the Weber River, that, you know, for most of those lots, we probably won't ever see a trail. However, something develops on the north side, we could ask for that. But it would be a shame if through all, you know, if Morgan built out as you did in the past, and the only trail section was the Mickelson Mile on the park, it'd be kind of a shame to have this beautiful river through the whole city and not have a trail. And I've actually been on East Canyon Creek. I bet you guys have, and it's probably really pretty. I don't know how big it gets, but even small streams make for great trails. So I just bring this up because we, you know, while we have this chance, let's talk with the landowner and see if there's any way. I know their discussion has been that they, if it were developed again, that they like the idea of, you know, backyards on a stream. Who wouldn't want a stream in their backyard? I think it would be wonderful and fantastic. But there's also significant real estate value when that's a shared resource, a shared trail. And just, you know, when it's a trail that everybody can access by that neighborhood, real estate goes up for all the lots and not just the ones in the backyard. So there's actually an argument there. If real estate value is the only factor on that, having a public trail and being nearby is something that would increase everybody's value. But again, it's up to the landowner and talks with the city. But these are the pivotal points where you want to try for something like that. Otherwise, you never get it. If you approve the rezone, you keep it as ag, then that's stays as ag. So here's some photos. Rep subdivision looking north. There's the property looking south. Again, with the ditches, East Canyon Creek. Another view.
Can I ask a question right
Yes.
here, Jake? And I understand this is a rezone. I totally get that. We're not into specifics, okay? This parcel that we're discussing tonight, that could be accessed from that road right there. Like I said, yeah, I think that's what, Scott Drive?
Yeah.
Okay. Would there be another ingress and egress? Is it that,
Yeah,
It
it's,
ties right into there.
is it that,
Right into that new one.
that
with
Lark's-
Darrell Ruts and then
that Lark Spur?
Darrell Larkspur. Yeah. So
Yep.
probably right there where
Two-
Jake is and 400 North right there.
400
And then it'll
west.
tie into Pheasant Run. And on the future map, it shows it tying in past that into Webster's.
yeah. So there,
So it does show it tying in, but it's outside of what we're rezoning tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I realize what,
So there's,
nothing to
so
do with.
here's one thing since we're on the roads that really concerns me. Oh. Thanks, Ty. Here's one of the things that really concerns me right now with this whole deal. As we look at this, to rezone this, I think there's other questions that we need to have in our mind. One of them is, do we have enough power to sustain this? Do we have enough water? Do we have enough sewer? We got to look at our infrastructure. One of the things that's concerning to me as I look at this road map here, in order to get out to where we all go every day, out to State Street and then out and onto the interstate, that 200 North is already getting jammed up it's getting to be a problem. We add in all these homes right here. Chances are they're going to take 200 North there out to State Street and then onto the interstate. I think we really need to look at this and consider, I mean, because your outlets are through Pheasant Run and you probably could not hit 200 North, but they're already hitting 200 North coming out of that subdivision. We'll now have the Rupp subdivision that will be coming up 300 West there, hit 200 North to get out. You add in this, probably we'll be hitting 200 North to get out of here. We don't have that. That road can't handle that much traffic. So, I mean, those are my concerns. If we rezone tonight, we've got to look at some of those things, our infrastructure. Can we handle this? I mean, if we do this, we got to look at the sewer going down there, down the Island Road, 300 West. Is that big enough to handle this? Then I go further down, do we have the capacity for this? And then what would that mean to our wastewater plant, et cetera? So I think in my mind, we still got a lot of questions to ask about the infrastructure. And that's a lot of homes in there. Do we have the water? Do we have the sewer? Do we have the stuff to do this? That's where my thoughts have been through this whole thing. I mean, cause that, you can do some simple math and that there's a lot, there'd be a lot going on in there.
And part of the subdivision process certainly includes detailed engineering and.
Right.
And the city does not have to approve subdivisions if there's not the infrastructure to serve it.
But and you're right, you're correct, but I'd hate to rezone this and then say, well, we don't have insufficient X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, okay.
Is what I'm saying. I'm
Sure.
trying to look ahead going, well, we could prove this, but then, well, sorry, you can't build in there because we don't have enough sewer capacity. Well, we just rezoned it. So I'm just trying to think ahead of this process.
Yeah.
We could also call that on 100 South. The same argument. Was Ty with this sewer? Cause it's pumped from the
There-
Island Road, right?
There's only one place this would have to tie into.
It would go to the lift station on
Okay.
Island Road, yeah.
Everything from the
Mhm.
side of this river.
That would come out of there and probably go down 400 north and tie into there and.
Yeah, on the infrastructure, without like the engineering estimate, all the work that we've done for impact fees offset the future capacity. So growth is supposed to take care of itself, so if we have to.
What?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, it's okay.
My thought was coming out of my head.
No, so for example, like on the sewer, our days are until we go full mechanical, right? So that's the next big capital improvement project. So without the engineering, that's all I'm saying. Power, same thing. We're way ahead of the game on substations. Each one of our substations can handle the entire city. One substation can handle the entire city, and we have 3 of them. So, traffic, we don't collect a lot in impact fees because our roads are wide, and then we don't have a single stoplight, so traffic control comes into, not ideal, right? But the work that we've done in each one of our infrastructure departments has been to accommodate, or so we don't have to fear future growth, and hopefully that it's set up that it pays for itself as it goes. So that's the non-engineering answer. I'm not saying we won't have troubles or issues or growing pains or whatnot, but it's that's just from what my job is. You asked me to handle the infrastructure, and so I feel good about all the work that we've done to get to this point. Not that it's not a concern, it's definitely a concern. I'm just saying that's kind of where we've been.
This,
So Eric's, let me ask this question, if I understand what Eric's saying. Eric's saying, as a legislative body, do we deny a rezone because we're concerned about utilities or infrastructure? My question is, but as a legislative body, do we okay a rezone and then we worry about those things when it gets into the planning stage?
and the answer is 2, number 2.
When it gets into the
Yeah,
planning.
that's in the
stage.
planning stage because your ordinance says, you have a concurrency ordinance that says if they might get it rezoned, but if we don't have adequate facilities, then we don't have to approve the subdivision. And, that's the way it is. Right now, your general plan says this is this area wants to be residential. And so that's what you look at. And then you look to your engine, then you actually have something in front of you from your engineer saying, yes, we got a traffic study that says we can put traffic out on this street or that street, or we need a new street, or we need a new pump station in order to make this work, or that all comes about when the engineers look at what they propose. And at that time, you look at whether or not you've got the facilities. Right now, preliminarily, you've got access, you've got the general plan, you've got all the rational basis you need to approve a rezone. But whether or not you're going to approve a subdivision is going to be up to the engineers, to the experts. The other option to that, the alternative to that, is to do a moratorium if you really know that you don't have, and we've done that before. We've done a moratorium in Morgan.
Yes, we did.
But it's an actual act that you shut everything down. You don't just choose this subdivision to shut down and not that one, and we'll do that one, but not that one. You shut everything down until you get the thing taken care of. So it may be that if they come in and they plan a subdivision that doesn't have enough sewer, that we're gonna have to make some changes at the sewer plant before we actually approve that subdivision. If the engineer ends up in saying that. Same thing with electrical, same thing with water, all of those things are gonna have to be looked at that level. But you don't have a plan before you right now, so you really don't know, what can and can't fit in there. And it may be, they may have a plan for 126 homes. But Morgan may say at that particular point, we can only service, 50 homes or 56 homes or something of that nature. That's where you take a look, and then you've got a basis from the engineer who's told you that the electrical engineer, the sewer, the water, rather than just kind of saying, we're afraid that we don't have enough for this, so let's shut this. Let's just not rezone this property. That's the problem, is that you're not at that stage yet. So,
And if,
Incidentally, we did get to a moratorium years ago on water. Remember that we didn't have the fire protection, remember, before we built the new tank?
we've done it for sewer too. when they
Yeah.
were Sewer pumps, you might remember that. But it's actually an act that you would have to take that would apply to all new subdivision applications in the city. And chances are this one, if you're going to do that, you'll do that for everybody. And not just for certain subdivisions. You'll just shut it down until you get it fixed.
and it could always be, we don't know what phasing. They may want to bring it in small increments. Or they may want to bring it in all at once. And if it's all at once, then obviously that's a huge impact on the infrastructure system. But also elsewhere in the city, we have zoning that, people aren't applying for. They're just sitting on their land for whatever reason. And so you can't just because the zoning's there, we can't stop. But I do think we need to be incredibly proactive. As Ty mentioned, you have the impact fees. So that should help to build. And if the impact fees don't generate enough money to cover that new infrastructure, then we need to quickly address that. But I have not heard that situation. Okay, the rest of the part was photos. And then just some detailed text that I went over. Any additional items on the report? As I mentioned, the planning commission was unanimous in voting yes. And we had one member of the public here to voice opposition, and also wishing that they had a stronger notice. But they were here, so obviously somebody was following it. And typically when you go to the outskirts of town, you see less. You had something, Gary?
Just the major concern of that one person that was here were the easements across the rear, which are definitely gonna have to be resolved, along with this. Remember the big, yeah, anyway. So those are gonna have to be resolved between the property owners and the new owners, and they recognize that, and they actually met with him in the hall afterwards and explained how they would resolve that issue, so. But I don't want to diminish your concerns, Eric, because they're real and they're absolutely important. The crucial piece is where do you,
Yeah.
and what kind of foundation do you lay for doing it? For example, if you do a moratorium and say no more subdivisions or only one phase of this.
Right.
And it would probably be at that level.
I was just trying to bring it up because I have had a lot of people
Right.
talk to me about that. I mean, that's probably the number one, concern that I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And on the road part, even just recently, the last month, I think Ty's had discussions with UDOT, but we have a new UDOT planner that replaced, Chris Chestnut, his name's Ryan. And, I'm back on his radar, pushing them for some grant money to help us do a transportation plan. And essentially it would be a citywide plan, just focus on roads and transportation. And what I told the UDOT planner is that our biggest needs are figuring out the existing interstate configuration, making that safer than it currently is, considering alternative locations for a second interchange to get that at least on the map if we're gonna need it sometime in the future. Either whether that's going west, or, coming from the west, or that's also looking at how to reconfigure where the Young Street Bridge is and all that. And then, of course, citywide grid, we have places from Island Road where we're gonna need bridges across and other, these missing links that Morgan needs. So we'll keep pushing them. And that would be almost the same, maybe the same level as a general plan, just on transportation. And we really need that.
So in the process of what we're discussing, when do you put the horse before the cart? I mean,
You
do
address
you
those
wait,
issues?
do you wait until
Oh.
it's overloaded or?
That's, you've got electrical, you've got water, you've got sewer. Those are your experts that need to weigh in on. The last moratorium we did, we limited the number of homes based on first come, first serve into the area until we had resolved the lagoon issues, right? And I think there were like, we could put another, can't remember, 35 or
It was like
40.
32 ERUs or something like
Yeah.
that.
So equivalent residential units. But Jamie at that time had warned us ahead of time that we've only got this much more capacity in the sewer system. So you did a moratorium on the sewer. You had a plan for increasing that. You did increase the front end. I think you rebuilt the front end and the back end, which increased the capacity to a lot more. I can't remember the number. And so you lifted the moratorium and allowed for it to come in. So now's, if you're thinking that there's a problem, now would be a good time to take a look at it and see where the problems might exist. And Ty's your guy. He's the guy that can arrange to give you a level of service that we've got and what we need and whether we're running short. And if he raises the alarm based on the engineer, your water guy, your sewer guy, then it's time to raise the alarm and we'll do a
Well,
moratorium.
a lot of it is emotional
Yeah,
residents.
Yeah.
That they don't want,
perception. right?
yes,
They perceive.
and they don't want
Or
it to,
people, we don't have enough resources.
or to turn into a bigger city. They moved here because it was rural, and, I mean, those are the emotional comments that
Yes.
probably the council, and I know I get them heavy,
Yes.
but without a basis to say, we're okay,
Yeah.
or we're not okay. That's what I'm just wondering is most, at least in my short time, every subdivision has come with resistance.
I agree.
Putting it mildly.
Yeah, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're concerns, but are they just emotional concerns? I moved here, put up a gate, lower taxes, my kids can't afford a house. All of those things come all the time, and it was sometimes emotional, full of compassion. But you have to, you have to consider that, you moved here 2 years ago,
Yeah, right.
but what I'm saying is I understand what their emotional concerns are, but I guess I'll just leave it at that.
One of the biggest misnomers, okay, and I get this one all the time too, is a few years ago, it was, it became knowledge that our sewer system was inadequate. And we actually had a number there, we could only allow X amount or more hookups to our sewer system. And people grasped onto that. To this day, they still grasp onto that, because I get it all the time. I thought our sewer system was inadequate. Well, what have we done, Ty? We put a headworks in there. We've changed the way we aerate the lagoons. We've done a ton of work that allows more capacity, but people still want to hang on to that.
Yeah.
I thought we only had room for 50 more so that's part of the problem right there.
It's a perception, and unfortunately, those are things that, things like schools, that's always something they bring up, our schools are crowded now, well, how are we gonna do that? Well, those are expressly, that's one thing that zoning can't consider is the schools, simply because that's the school's responsibility. It's a different legislative group, and it's not a part of the zoning decision. If you were to base it on your decision on that, it would not be a good zoning reason for denying a zoning application. However, the other issues you're raising are legitimate issues. The way to dispel the perception is to have your experts let you know, give you information that will let you know that we're okay. And like, for example, power, I know Ty has done a lot of work on making sure we got enough power for the new, for anything new out there, including industrial. And sewer, we're working real hard on, but it's exactly what you said. Those are the issues, and we really need to put facts down so that people don't get carried away with the perceptions.
So if this is approved, let's say, for the zone that they want, all of these studies would be when they put in an application.
After.
Correct?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Am I on the right track?
You're exactly on the right track.
And then, like you said, the experts would tell us, wow, we're getting close, or there's room for it. Okay, good.
And they may say there's not room for it. I don't know.
Right.
But
Just
so
to
far
make
they-
sure I'm tracking right,
Mhm.
we approved the zone.
Mhm.
We don't do the subdivision.
Right.
That now leaves our hands and goes somewhere else.
Mhm.
So if we approve this,
We're done.
we're not, we sitting up here
Are done.
are now walk out of the picture, right?
Yes, sensitive lands, and then also, if there is a development agreement,
Okay.
that will always be city council.
And then we're, and then,
Well,
Well, oh, that would be a third.
Third, it
That'd be a
could
third
be,
thing.
but-
But if there is a development agreement on, whatever the city may choose to negotiate with the developer, or the developer may negotiate with the city.
no more final acceptance from the city council.
No, sorry. We lost that.
Yeah.
I wasn't there last year and they lost it, so I'm just kidding.
Okay, but yeah, so basically tonight's just to,
Zone.
Put the zoning in place.
okay. I don't think we have any more time, maybe on the pre-subdivision, is there any?
On the annexation.
Well, it's already annexed, but now a change in the annexation.
Oh, it's an amendment to the agreement.
Yeah,
Yes.
but,
Yes, you, and you've got 2.5 minutes.
but it looked fairly clean.
Innocuous, yeah. Essentially, the biggest changes are the delay of improvements. The delay of improvements on where they would have to put them in wherever their home or their lot is, right? They would have to bring a sewer line. The sewer line would run from the corner of,
700
we
each.
could get that up.
Oh, yeah. Let me,
There's a really good drawing that Matt put in there
Oh,
that shows exactly, and go ahead.
oh,
Do you-
Teresa has that. I don't have
Okay.
that.
I think it was page 40 in your packet.
That will show what, you're trying to see the sewer line.
Yeah, so I'm not real good at, let me just kind of point out, the major changes are that there would now, instead of running a sewer line all the way over here and down here, there would now be an easement, a 20-foot wide easement that would run the sewer line along these properties like that. And connect up to the sewer line that would go all the way down the road when the subdivision comes in.
That's an existing sewer line.
Right.
It will be.
But right now, there would just be an easement granted to the city, and that would need to be installed in the future.
So the one question there, Gary, is if a subdivision develops below, they don't necessarily have to go out to 600 North. They could come straight down and hook into the subdivision
So if a subdivision develops
below right there.
right here,
Mhm.
they could hook onto that that sewer main.
Well, but what I'm saying is if we wouldn't need the elbow, we could come straight down to wherever the subdivision hooks to that.
You mean across the interstate?
So the place, the easement,
Right here?
no, now go left. That easement might disappear, that
Good.
little section,
Yeah, that could.
Okay.
Depending on what
depending on,
how they develop that.
if there's a septic tank problem, then they'd have to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
and,
Other than you've got the interstate and railroad tracks there.
yeah,
well, that won't have anything to do with, because the main sewer line's at the bottom of the freeway.
so
Yeah, but don't we have an easement there right now for the sewer with the railroad and the interstate? that
We do.
UDOT?
we do.
So you'd have to have another one?
No, that one's, the main line's coming
I'll
down
talk about it
600,
later.
coming down 600 north to there.
It's up here, just identifying all the changes in that, so.
Okay,
There that is on page 40, by the way.
It is on page 40.
I think it's 41, the one you're
Oh,
looking at.
41, no, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we got any more questions on our work meeting? We okay?
Ready,
Good to go.
get any more time?
We got 30 seconds. Okay. All right, let's begin our city council meeting. August 27th, 2024. For those that just walked in, we've been in a work meeting discussing everything, so try to keep abreast of everything that's going on. Work session's adjourned and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, I've asked Eric if he'll give us the pledge and Ty to give us a opening prayer.
Please stand. Please repeat the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we come before you this night. We give you thanks for our blessings. We're grateful for this opportunity we have to be public servants in the service of this great community. We're grateful for the city council and their willingness to serve and the difficult decisions that they're willing to make on behalf of the entire community and its future. And we're grateful for those that have come tonight to participate in the process and watch the city council do its business. And we ask that thou bless us with thy spirit, that we can be guided in the decisions that we make, and we'll be able to communicate and have mutual understanding of those decisions before us. And these things we pray in the name of thy son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the meeting's agenda?
So moved, Mayor.
Second,
Mayor. There will not be minutes to, so do you want to,
Number 2 in the consent agenda is what.
yeah, so I don't know if
We'll
you want
bring that
to
note up.
note that that won't be on the agenda.
what will be on the agenda?
We got some warrants in the
The
packet.
minutes.
We just don't have the minutes.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second to approve tonight's meeting agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Teresa, that's unanimous. Item 2, consent agenda. The minutes of the city council meeting aren't ready for tonight to approve from last meeting. So we need to look at just item B in that consent agenda on the warrants from August 9th, 24 to August 23rd, 2024. Is there any discussion? Any comments on that?
Yes. So, tell me, I should know this, I suppose. Tell me why we pay Morgan Secondary Water $2,000.
So all of our water shares
Mm-hmm.
that are in the system that water our parks
Mm-hmm.
and all those, it's our annual assessment for the number of water shares we have on their system. But how that arrangement came through and where the agreement came from, that was before my time.
So we allow them to use our water, but they charge us the assessment for it, and we allow them to use our water
Like
for,
every other water
Your
user.
house.
That's just like all the rest of us.
but we charge. Yeah, but there's something that doesn't seem quite right about that to me, but anyway, so. Okay,
So,
so let me get this straight.
so we
So
have water certificates.
Right, and
so
we're
more than
paying- we're-
Secondary water.
we're paying that assessment
Mhm.
to the Secondary Water Association, but we're letting them use our water essentially for
Well, we-
free, for free.
Basically, we turn over.
We
our
turned
water.
over water shares
We turn over our water shares for use in the system.
for the public.
Okay,
Their pipe.
Is that clear as mud?
clear, but, okay. Okay,
There's a whole nother discussion, Tony.
yeah, that is, yeah, for another time.
Do you want me to not pay the bill?
No, 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 no. I think you should pay the bill, but it's just, I don't know.
Okay.
We could bring this up another time.
I'm glad you brought that up because I had the same question. Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll move it to another meeting.
yeah. We'll discuss it.
Okay.
One other quick question, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Stan Tech Consulting. 9 grand, a little over 9 grand for modeling sensitivity something. What is Stan Tech Consulting?
So we paid it's not our air permit, but it's a preliminary engineering study that let us know what we would ask for in an air permit if we built a natural gas generator on our system. So I think I've talked about that project in the future. 1.5 megawatt generator would require an air permit. The good news is the study said that we would not have to have a scrubber based on
Oh, really?
the air quality. So that, we did that just so we knew what kind of generator and the costs associated with building that project would be. So,
That is good news.
yeah, so, and we did the assessment on the 3 megawatts, so 2 1.5 megawatt generators we could do 2 of them without having a scrubber. There's SCR, I don't know the technical term,
Hydrostatic precipitator.
something like that.
Okay, that's
That's
okay.
what that is. Yeah.
I was just curious.
let's see, do I need a motion?
Yep.
You do.
I do.
Yeah.
We had a discussion. I didn't put it to a motion yet. Okay.
Mayor, I'll make motion to approve the warrants from August 9th, 2024 to August 23rd, 2024.
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the warrants and a second from August 9th to August 23rd, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Teresa, that's unanimous. Did we have anybody sign in for comments? Teresa? Okay. Is there any citizen comments? I'm a pretty easy mayor. If you want to make a comment, we're okay. Okay,
Did everybody sign in?
I think they did.
Everybody signed in, okay.
Okay, let's move to item 4, the active agenda. A is review an action amending the zoning designation of a parcel of property containing approximately 77.45 acres located at approximately 400 west, 200 north by changing the zoning designation from agricultural to single-family residential by designating 38.56 acres to R110 and 38.88 acres to R112. providing for the amendment to the zoning map. Ordinance 2412. So Jake, do you want to lead us on that?
I do, but since you gave me the mic, I want to bring up that tomorrow night we have our open house. So just a reminder, I'd love to see every one of you there, and also the public is invited. We're doing a master plan for Morgan City downtown, the Commercial Street area and State Street area. Also, we're looking at trails citywide, so where to put future trails. And so that's at the middle school at 6 p.m. and it's an open house. And we have 3 different scenarios for people to come and weigh in and provide different ideas. So we're looking at that 20-year plan, just reminding you. So
And it's not a spur of the moment meeting. We've had
yes,
several
going on
residents
for
put their
months.
input.
It's
yes.
part of a year.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and this is the third of this, the second public workshop. And the notice did go out in the utility bill. Everybody received that. And then also we've emailed everybody that's participated so far and also our stakeholder group. So tell your friends and come, and there'll be treats as well if you need sugar to get
Tony
you there.
just there will be treats, refreshments, so.
But come because you care how Morgan's gonna look in the downtown and also trails citywide. So lots of different ideas. And what's cool at this point is we have scenarios. We have different things to say. I like this, I don't like that. So we listened before and then we came up with different maps based off of what everybody said and put on their maps. So it's a chance to weigh in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now.
So, yes, we'll jump into the next.
Hey,
All right, so I'm doing a screen share here and I'm going to share with you my screen. This is the oh,
That's me. You turn me on.
okay. Thank you. So Council Mayor, I'm going to just briefly go through the report that you received in your packet. The request is for a rezone of approximately 77.45 acres. The property is within the city boundary and the current zoning is agriculture. And the applicant has requested 2 rezones as part of this. The first area is approximately 38 acres. And it's, and these are the parcels right here. I'm not going to read them all, but they're in the packet. For the first parcel, it's entire, and then part of these other parcels as well. And then the second request also in the application was to rezone the agriculture land to R112, which is a minimum of 12,000 square foot lots, and R110 is a minimum of 10,000 square foot lots. And the second one is also 38 acres, so nearly split down the middle. In general, the proposed rezone is compatible with the general plan. Use the term compatible, specifically the future land uses and the transportation. And this area has been identified as changing uses and zones if requested by the landowner, meaning the general plan has said, we do see this area changing at some point in the future. The Planning Commission last week held a public hearing. We did receive some comments on that and concerns about the easements, existing easements of adjacent properties, and then also just concern about change in general from agriculture to residential. The Planning Commission did vote unanimously in favor of it, and now it's up to you to decide to vote yes, vote no, or vote yes with changes or conditions as well. You could also decide to think on it a little bit more if you wanted as well. And then also, it is not, this is not a subdivision, proposed subdivision at this point. It's just a rezone. And however, the applicant could come back in the future with the subdivision. So some of the other summary items of my report, this area is lacking parks in the city. And so just where it's a large property, been identified to, talk with landowners in that area about parks. And then also the general plan has identified East Canyon Creek as a trail corridor as well. Parks and trails are not required by law like roads are, road connections. However, the city can choose to engage with the landowner if he's willing to have conversations about trails and parks. Utilities are in the area and generally serviceable. But as I say here, more detailed engineering would occur with the proposed subdivision, and utility standards would be required to be met. And if our standards could not be met, then the project would not go forward at that time and until there's adequate services and utilities. Here's a map of the entire parcels on the southwest area of the town. We have 400 west up here on the north, 350 west, and then also 525 west down here. And then additional connections could be made to the west. And then also going to the east as well. Just maybe that one area right there is a possible location. And the city does have a right of way there. I don't know if there's a street number on that. Is there? There's no street number on there, but there is a right of way. This is the area that has been proposed as R110 on the north. The area on the south, which is proposed at R112. And the pink line being the border between those two. And this is, the actual rezone is based off of the legal description. The maps just provide that important visual representation. Here's a map of proposed property for change, and surrounding zoning is R110, R18, which effectively is R110 in terms of minimal lot size, R112 in blue, and then R120 in kind of this orange, and then the existing agriculture zone on the west. And then we have unincorporated Morgan County on the south side of the creek. This is the original map that was provided with the application. And then we received an updated map, which actually more correctly aligned with the legal description. So that's also included. Here's a map of the general plan, which was adopted this year. The sandy area is the MDR, medium density residential. And then the yellow area is the LDR, low density residential. And the MDR corresponds with the R110, and the LDR corresponds with the LDR. It's really kind of close. It's almost when you do the math, that is kind of the split between the two. And medium density residential and low density residential, it's a range. It's not an exact zoning. Zoning is where we decide on those specific sizes. Included in the packet was the language from the general plan. This map shows the proposed boundary between the two zones, and then also between the MDR and the LDR. As stated in the packet, the report, that the zoning request is not exactly according to the general plan, but it is in the vicinity and considered compatible. And a general plan is for consideration, advisory, and also as a city council, you decide how you want to interpret it and vote on it. But certainly it is not in opposition, I would say. It's in the vicinity of it. And we do have on the property on the south area, the sensitive lands, this area in blue with dots. So if there was an application in the future on development, they would be required to comply with the sensitive lands ordinance, which does actually come back to the city council if there was an application. And then we also have the well recharge area, and there's requirements with that. And the transportation plan shows street connections if the project were to move forward. And that's something we would look at, but certainly this is an area where we would want additional street connectivity, kind of tie some things together. As I mentioned, there's no parks in this area. Closest park is probably the Fox Point Park, and so we as a city, we want to actively be looking for park opportunities and lands in this part of the city, especially if it's going to grow. And also the city's trails plan, which is in the general plan, has identified East Canyon Creek as a trail corridor, and we'd like to have conversations with landowners and developers to look at how trails could happen. And that is, I think, regardless of whether there's a development or not. But certainly if there's a development, that's a good time to have that conversation, but also be looking ahead and working towards that. And then last, I'll just run through these photos, kind of give you a visual of the property. Rupp subdivision there on the north. This is the boundary of the property right here in the green. Property looking south, East Canyon Creek. Also looking southwest, and additional street connection if the project moved forward. And then again, also looking north from a little bit farther south. So the area is ag and use. There are ditches on it. And any questions on the report? Okay, thank you. I do see we have a member of, we have the applicant is here, so you can ask him questions if you'd like, and up to you.
We like to.
Well, I would just comment that we spent, 45 or 50 minutes previous to this meeting in our work meeting discussing this zone change. So I guess my disclaimer is we make a decision here tonight and it seems hasty. It's not. We've looked at it for the last hour or so. We had quite a lot of discussion on it.
So with that, Ben doesn't really need to stand up because I think we've gone through everything. Unless council members would like it. Okay,
Go ahead.
The discussion revolved a lot around what we do as a city council legislative, and tonight we're here to decide whether or not to allow the zone change to occur. A question came up, what about some of the details, in the future as far as roads, as far as capacity in our different utilities and enterprise funds. And as we discussed, that's something that is fleshed out, later on when you start looking at the subdivision ordinance itself. So that was what a lot of our discussion was. So essentially, as a city council, we're here tonight just to determine whether or not we are going to go ahead and pass the ordinance to approve the zone change. So that's done. There's still a ton of work to do in the future. So that's what a lot of our discussion was about. I think that.
so it almost sounds like you're ready to make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion that we adopt ordinance 24-12, an ordinance amending the zoning designation of parcels of property containing a total of approximately 77.45 acres located at approximately 400 west, 200 north, by changing the zoning designation thereof from agriculture to single-family residential, by designating 38.566 acres to R110 and 38.886 acres to R112, providing for the amendment to the zoning map, providing for the repealer, providing for the severability, and providing for an effective date.
Second. Okay, we have a motion. Oh, let me get this. The zoning designation of the parcel of property located at approximately 400 west, 200 north. To single family, from agricultural to single family residential by designating 38.56 acres to R110 and 38.88 acres to R112. All in favor?
No, you gotta go.
Did we have
And prior to that, Mayor,
Let's have some discussion if you.
yeah, I just want to go on record that I feel there may be, some people may see a conflict of interest in my vote. I have a son that might be a little closer to this than others. It's not gonna touch me. It doesn't affect me. So I think I can still vote on this, but there may be the perception out there that I have a closer tie to this. I don't. I have no tie to it, but I may have a family member that is a little closer. So I don't know what else do I need to get on record and say,
That's
Gary.
perfectly adequate. So under Utah law, it's not a pecuniary interest. He has no pecuniary interest. In other words, if this goes positively or negatively, he doesn't make money off of it going positively or negatively. And it's interesting because in Morgan, I think it's tough not to have an association with
With
somebody
something,
who's-
sure.
And that's just the nature of small town. So it's very appropriate what you've indicated. So
Most of the time, that's a good thing.
yeah, it truly is.
Okay, Jeffrey.
Aye.
Jeff. Aye. Tony.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Okay, Teresa, that's unanimous. So Ben, if you want to spend the evening with us, you can, or you can. Pleasure. You can maybe get home to an early dinner. How's that? Okay, before we get started, is this a granddaughter? How cool is that?
Awesome.
Thanks for coming.
He's like, this sneaking homework, Mayor.
Is that in
Have to be here.
high school or college?
It's college
I was gonna say it's college, yeah.
You're in college,
now.
but smart enough to do.
Taking concurrent enrollment. Good for
Very
you.
smart.
Yeah.
Very good path to go
Be a
down.
poli-sci major.
Smart.
Thanks for coming. That's cool. I wasn't smart enough. I had to take 7th grade math when I was in 12th grade. So thanks. Appreciate you being here. Oh, I just buried my. Okay, on the active agenda, item B is to review and action on first amended agreement for annexation and development of land between Morgan City and Lisa C. and Sean D. Priest, Waylon S. Do I say, is it Michaela? Michaela Priest, Eugenia H. and Blake E. Rouser, Arlene S. Christensen, trustee, and Deanne C. Johnson, trustee. Resolution 2420.
2430.
2430, sorry. Gary, am I gonna refer to you?
Sure,
Okay.
that would be just fine. Maybe the easiest way of going through it would be to, I've got an add-in strikeout in the original agreement, and Teresa's gonna try and help me come up with that, but it's in your packet, and it starts on page 46 of your packet. And you've got red line and blue line, those constitute amendments and strikeouts.
That's helpful when you tell us where it starts, what page.
Yeah, so with 66 pages, it's probably an easier way to go. So maybe we could just go through fairly quickly, just the changes. So if we go down to the first change, and this is a request by the family, when they actually began to subdivide and go through that process, they discovered some of the things were not simple to accomplish, and some might be downright impossible to accomplish right now. And so they came back and they requested that we take a look at amending the agreement, just to provide for, accommodate some of the things that were a little more difficult than others. If you go down to page 47 and the sanitary sewer provisions of 3.1, those have the recommended changes there. We've run by Matt and they work. And essentially, the owners agree to dedicate to the city a 20-foot wide easement. And if you go, I'm sorry, I'm going to flip back and forth, but if you go back to page 40 of the agenda, go back to page 40. Let's see, it's 41, I'm sorry. Next. So first color picture that you get.
41.
Keep going up.
No,
Up.
Go the other way,
Yeah,
Teresa.
sorry about that.
that's the colored photo.
Yeah, it's a color photo. Okay, there we go. Okay. And one more, just one more sheet. Okay. So this shows you've got a yellow easement. It's a 20-foot wide easement. It will be a sewer easement. And those properties that are in there that end up in developing and will be able to connect to that sewer line in the future. It's an 8-inch line that will be installed in the future within that 20-foot easement, but the 20-foot easement will be granted to the city currently under this agreement, rather than coming all the way down 700 and then down 600. They will have that easement that will essentially do an L over to 600 west. It's crazy because 700 east really looks like 700 north to me, but I'll call it one 700 and the other one 600. How's that? And it'll connect up at 600, but for now, the developed lot will connect to the sewer line that is in the 8-inch sewer line that is in the roadway, and then that will run down to the sewer plant. And so not a lot has changed except for the fact that the reconfiguration of where that sewer line will go in the future when the families connect. And the anticipation is that connections would occur when that agricultural piece comes into play. I'm sure that there's going to be changes because that agricultural piece will need to provide for a number of units. I'm sure it will request a number of units. And so what we wanted to do is just make sure the city's covered, and that 20-foot wide sewer easement would cover the city in connecting everybody to the north. And then that agricultural, it would connect into that sewer line that goes down 600, and the agricultural piece would be fed. Feeding's not a good, probably what term to use when you're referring to sewer lines, but the sewer would feed into that and down to the substation. Then if you go to, let's go back to the agreement, page 47. I won't do this to you a number of times, just this once on the sewer line, because I thought you had to see where that went. So go back to 47. And that covers all of the requests for delaying the sewer line improvements. What would have come down 700 and then down 6 is now going to constitute a sewer easement that will eventually be able to allow for the connection of any homes that develop up there down to the new agricultural piece. And they will be required, and they do agree, to connect up when when one of two things happen. Either the ground develops further or the agricultural piece develops. And either one of those would initiate everybody having to connect onto the sewer line. Because then you got a fully functioning sewer line is what you've got.
And this is just on the Priest property though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the others could connect onto it. The Rousers I know are to the east, is it? East. So others could connect onto
They
it.
aren't,
but
they aren't here to propose a,
No,
okay.
yeah,
So just so our mind's clear, it's just, at this point, it's just with the Priest property.
that's correct.
Okay.
Priests are the one that are requesting this change. Then you go down to 3.3. And we're essentially delaying improvements along 700 and along 600. If the city elects to do that. The owners are going to dedicate 5 feet along the property line. Things have changed since we first began to look into this. We didn't know who owned the road, but we've discovered since, Ty's done a lot of research on it. We discovered that the road is owned by UDOT, but the city is the one that really has to work at obtaining possession of that road. We will need 5 feet from probably both sides of the road in order to complete a 60-foot right of way. But this provides for the family, instead of having the responsibility of acquiring the entire 60 feet, they just give us the 5 feet that we need for the future. And then when the other side develops, they'll have to kick in as well. Then you go down to the storm drain. We've continued the storm drain into the future because there is no storm drain to connect into until the agricultural piece develops. And then we'll probably have to figure out a detention basin down there or something of that nature. And they've agreed to connect in to whatever system is set up once that agricultural piece develops. So if there's a storm basin down there, they'll have to connect them to that system at a time in the future when a system exists. Right now, it wouldn't go anywhere. So 3.7 is the city has they're requesting that the city delay the improvements, curb, gutter, sidewalk, until such time as let's see,
3.7.
the agricultural, 3.7, until the agricultural piece develops. At that time, they would improve 600 and they'd improve 700 as well, is what
I was told in our meeting that whatever direction the house was facing was where we needed the curb and gutter, was my impression.
new homes, any new homes.
So it was just supposed to be on 600, so.
Terms of the agreement.
Curb and gutter are 4.2. A.
Let me look back at the drawings. Let's see if that gives us any.
Because
Who's going to improve 700 in the future?
Well, if it comes all the way down the road, yes, we would do it. But it's way.
but you're
Oh,
a good quarter mile away before it ever even makes it that far.
that's what it was. So if it does come down
Yes.
From
and
the
connect
cemetery.
from the cemetery, if there is a connection along that road, then you would kick in and help with
Offset.
on 700. But we're not going to make you. Matt said that he wouldn't make you connect that up if the council agrees and is that the way you remember it, Ty? Until there's actually a connection. I mean, if you don't have anything to connect to, didn't make a lot of sense. So we're delaying that as well.
So may I ask a question? So I see several delay agreements in here.
Yes.
That's one of them I'm looking at right now is the curb and gutter sidewalk. So, is the delay agreements in place or does this constitute the delay agreement?
No, the delay agreements, I've drafted two of them. And they essentially restate what is in here, but they are agreements that would be recorded against the land. One is for curb, gutter, sidewalk, and storm drain. And the other is for, I think, secondary sewer. Or sewer, sanitary sewer. I did two so that,
This is just the annexation agreement.
right, this is an amendment to the annexation agreement saying you agreed to do it.
Going back to the original, and then the delay agreements will come secondary to this.
Right,
Okay, I just had a question on the.
but by doing this, agreeing to do this, we automatically will approve those delay agreements. You're approving the delay agreements as well. So this agreement says I'll draft delay agreements and that you agree to delay those improvements. I'll just go ahead and do that if you approve the changes tonight.
The idea being we wouldn't have sidewalk and curb and gutter. It's going nowhere. It's just
Right,
sitting in front of a particular lot, right?
on both 600
Yeah.
and 700. It just didn't make any sense at this point. But at the same time, there's a commitment on their part to put it in when we actually do have something to connect to. So, and I think, let me just see here. Secondary water, we don't have any of that yet, but if we ever do have it, they would connect up to that. If we have a secondary water system, they would have to connect up to that. So, and that's really the extent of it. Let's see, 4.2 talks about the two delay agreements.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. There's no other, unless I missed something.
So they have city water along 700 East and it actually turns the corner, the corner going towards 600
Oh,
North.
yes,
But Arlene's piece is up towards 700 East. So my understanding is they'll habitate that connection and then put the connection from the existing water line down to Arlene, so it doesn't run through the middle of their lot.
right. Yeah.
They'll run it down 600 North.
So if you look at 42, that, I missed that, but that's where the water line runs. It would run from 700 down to the new lot. Extend 8-inch water line with subdivision on the of corner lot, and it shows the dashed line. So if you go up, Teresa, to the colored pictures again, I'm sorry. If you go up. Okay, there, right there. So it shows a sewer line or a water line coming down from 700 down 600. That would have to be installed.
So what is the situation with that road tie? What do we call it? 600 North? Is that what we're calling it?
Is it west?
Excuse me,
Excuse me.
600 West. I'm
Crazy
sorry.
enough. 600 West connects into.
We have
700
agreement,
East.
we have agreement from UDOT to deed it to the city, and that they have a consultant engineer right now to do the survey and property description to convey it to us.
So we're going to end up with it.
Yeah.
Be a city road.
And then I just have just one final question. I'm looking at Matt's notes. I think I'm looking at Matt's notes. Yes, I'm looking at Matt's notes. On his concerns, his fifth bullet point. He says, future home/property improvements of annexed property may initiate a connection to city water and sewer utilities. May or will?
So run that by me again on Matt's notes.
Future loan. future home / property improvements of annexed property may initiate a connection to city water and sewer and utilities. I'm a little uncomfortable with that may. I mean, I would think it would be mandatory.
I can
So
answer that one.
the agreement provides that they will.
So they're already on water. It's more of a condition. He's just saying if you're within the parameters of a sewer, then you're required to connect. He's just putting that note in there, but where the sewer line's gonna actually be located doesn't put any of the other properties in that situation other than, Arlene. Cause it would go right in front of.
So is she
Arlene's house.
required to hook to that sewer?
It could prompt that, but
Probably when the agricultural piece comes in, it would.
Okay, well, yeah, it's delayed until staying with the other
Mhm.
easement.
Yes.
sewer.
yeah.
Okay.
So the delay agreement probably handles that.
Mhm. Yeah, we are gonna require it. Okay. Tony, I don't know when this was written. Is this Matt's 2023?
Yeah,
So this is for the old,
almost a year old.
the new one, is reflected in the amended agreement. Where they do have to connect on when that agricultural piece develops or when another parcel of your property develops.
Okay.
If that happens. Just want to make sure I hit it all, Mayor. Can I look at
I think. it's
everybody's
all-
face and see? And there was a concern that I would slip something else in, but I haven't done it.
Sewer and water.
Okay. Okay. I'd like it recorded that he said it was good, so. That's it. That's all I had, Mayor.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you for your work. Is anybody ready? More discussion?
What page is that ordinance on?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
I'm getting there 30. No, I'm still not there.
Dang, I had it at one point.
30.
Is anybody prepared for a motion?
Is, would the motion be, is that as written, that First Amendment amended agreement? Is that what the motion would be?
Go up one more, Tony.
I think I'm in the wrong place, aren't I?
Yes.
There we go. Okay. You are,
I am, because I can't find it.
Mayor.
Oh,
I will make a motion to approve or adopt resolution 24-30. A resolution adopting and approving the first amended agreement for annexation and development of land between Morgan City and Lisa C. and Sean D. Priest, Waylon S. and Michaela Priest, Eugenia H. and Blake E. Rouser, Arlene S. Christensen, trustee, and Deanne C. Johnson, trustee.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion to approve resolution 24-30. And a second. Eric?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Jeff? Aye. Jeffrey?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you for all your hard work and patience, and you've added to my gray hair. Okay, and you're able to go celebrate or whatever you want to call it.
Or stick around.
Hey,
Stick around.
can't stay. It's so much fun.
Yo.
The wheels turn slowly sometimes. I think the wheels turn slowly sometimes.
Okay, item C. Bid award Renegade Landscapes, city entry monument project ratifying the city manager's signature on the notice to award resolution 24-29. So Ty, I think I'll turn this over to you.
Yeah, so at the last city council meeting, I mentioned that we had received and accepted the bid for this project. And then it was just a matter of timing, whether we waited for city council to sign it or if I signed it and then got it ratified. So that's the approach. The spreadsheet in your packet kind of shows what happened. We met with the engineer and the applicant and Jake and a couple others, but on the right, you can see under column 2, those are items that we reduced. The original bid was for 156,000. The engineer estimate was 140,000. So we met with him to see what he could do to come back down to the engineer's estimate. And those are the items that were adjusted. So I approved the award and the notice to proceed and just need council's approval to ratify my signature. Just as a reminder, this is the last part of the rural opportunities grant we got in 2023. So a little bit more than 30% of it's, or we're gonna overspend the grant. The grant was a 70-30. So we're closer to like a 40-60. So 60% of it's gonna be paid for on grant dollars. Just about rough numbers, so.
So in the picture, it shows dunes. I'm wondering if that. Yeah, it looks like dunes. I would love to
Back,
be able to ride something on that.
yes.
No.
So anyway, then I'll just mention that the bid is everything minus the block lettering on the sign. So the upright posts that you see there will be installed by the contractor, but we still have to buy the signs to attach to it. There'll be block lettering and backlit, so they'll be lit up at night. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. We're looking for a sign company right now that can manufacture the signs. Since we're dealing with a landscaper, we didn't have him go and find a sign company, but
There's a big flag with a light too, right?
yep,
Is that,
off to the left of that sign, kind of by that access road,
yeah,
and it'll be a 40-foot flagpole.
see it from way down the freeway. It'll be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And it'll say, welcome to historic Morgan City, because the grant is promoting the historic downtown.
We want the letters to be lit within, so that's what we're trying for.
You can put on there, we ain't got no gondola.
I see the dunes in the background we're talking about. That's covered in snow.
Is that what it is? Well, that'd be a good snowmobile ride too.
Well, and I think just to point out for the young lady, that's where you come off the freeway, like coming from Ogden, coming into Morgan, be right there where the sign is now, the entrance way right now.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to maintain the way it was.
But it is.
Yeah, this is gonna be all weed fabric, rock, drip irrigation, so it should be considerably less maintenance, but we still will need to do maintenance.
And where it says welcome Morgan City, those are actual tracks.
Yeah, railroad tracks, and actually used as well, which I think is kind of cool. I mean, they're still robust and tough.
So it should last at least our lifetime.
Her lifetime.
Okay.
90-pound rail.
Just a little better than a Boy Scout project.
The Eagle project.
Okay, is there any more discussion, questions?
I like it.
Get her done.
So do we need we do, don't we?
Yep, Mayor.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we pass resolution 24-29, a resolution authorizing the agreement with Renegade Landscapes for the city entry monument project, authorizing further negotiations and change orders necessary for the completion of the city entry monument project, ratifying the city manager's signature on the notice to award.
And I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for resolution 24-29. Eric,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Jeff, Jeffrey?
Aye.
Hey, Teresa, that's unanimous. Let's move on to the city reports, and I attend a COG meeting with, thanks, Jake.
Sorry, don't take it through the meeting. I'd be rude.
If we're paying you by the hour, go ahead, leave.
Hey, see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thank you, all of you.
I'll be there.
See you tomorrow.
I'll be there too. Might be a little late, but I'll be there.
Okay, so we have discussions in COG, but doesn't get a lot of it shared, so Tony and Jeffrey attend that meeting. And we kind of wanted a little bit of updates on things, so. Tony, Jeffrey?
Well, at COG, there's representatives from the school district, the county, city, the council of governments, and from elected officials. And in the last year, we've made some progress. I don't know what good it's done us yet. We're hoping in having some of our members, Dave goes down. We've got a lot better relationship with WFRC and some of the state stuff that's going on. And I hope as that continues, that'll give us some traction. Tomorrow night, there will be a number of WFRC, Wasatch Front Regional Council people here that have been helping with this downtown area. Our liaisons with the WFRC will be there, so it'll be a great chance to come and meet them and thank them for at least acknowledging that we're part of that organization, and hopefully we can get some grant money and get some opportunities from them. We've been, at least in the last 2 years, attending those meetings and doing a part. We meaning those that are retired. I haven't been anything yet, so.
So
Go ahead.
I sit on the long range, Wasatch Front, long range transportation planning. Sat in on a meeting a week ago with them. You don't hear a whole lot about Morgan County. It was mentioned once or twice. Brad D mentioned it. A lot of the discussion revolved around the Olympics coming to Utah in 10 years. And I guess with UDOT, some of the discussion, I think, revolved around the mountain grade interchange, I guess, for lack of a better term. So, yeah. And also there was a little bit of discussion on the interchange down at the mouth of the canyon, 84, 89 interchange. But as far as Morgan City's concerned, there's, but as Jeffrey said, at least we're there now. We're at the meetings and they know we're there. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and for your information, we're in District 1, which pretty much everything is on the west side of the Wasatch Front, so Weber County, Davis County, that area. And we have our little valley here that, and not much input has come from Morgan to them. So like our projects would be like a neighborhood project to them, but it's still a big deal for us, so. So the council and others, the commissioners from the county, they're starting to show their faces at these WFRC meetings, and I think it's coming pretty good. Haven't seen a lot of dollars yet, but I think otherwise, if we don't attend them, they have no idea what our concerns are. And it's, I think it's a good thing for the future. So that's our report. Eric, do you have any? Yeah. Jeff?
No, but so at them deals, do they ask you what some of our concerns are up here and stuff, Steve, or
Do we voice them?
do they ask for you to voice them? Is it
I think they,
Morgan County, yeah, they
Yeah.
don't need anything.
no, I think they're engaging with us more and more as we participate.
It seemed like Brad D, he just got, he's the, something to do with UDOT now. He
Yeah, him, and then there's Halverson,
seems a little more,
Chris
Hugo.
Halverson, I think.
I think you're right,
Chris Halverson.
and Brad D, they seem a little more interested in what's, I mean, I think Brad D made the mention in my meeting that, the potential, a lot of growth in Morgan County and something to that effect.
Oh, just let me know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just a process.
They know we're alive.
Ty, some updates?
Just real quick, I talked about the Department of Energy grant that we got the intent to award. It's been a couple months, but we did finally get the award. So we're starting that process to engage with the Department of Energy. That grant is to bury the power lines on State Street and then down 400 East towards Industrial Road. Just get them out of the weather, and that'll be a nice project. And we're looking at combining that with a sidewalk project, just to make that project, make it easier to get the power lines in the ground. We'll kind of destroy the sidewalk and then maybe replace it. The sidewalk's in terrible shape anyway, so. That was a $600,000 grant and a $1 million project. So hasn't gone out to bid yet, or still needs engineering, but just wanted to let you know that it's a deal. Before intent to award, I'd never heard that before. Like, what does that mean? And the other update I have is you have a little one sheet page from Crown Castle in front of you. A meeting or 2 meetings ago, we talked about the lease agreement. They wanted to do a 30-year lease agreement. And this is with the communication tower down at the transfer station. So they lease the property from us to operate that cell tower. And this is the new terms. We've gone back and forth. We have a 5% escalator on our current one, and they were willing to keep that for 30 years, but that seemed like a long-term lease last time we talked. So this is for a 10-year lease, and it'll be a 4% escalator with a $15,000 sign-on bonus. So just getting kind of your feedback if we're in the right direction or ballpark, so I can bring an actual agreement, or if I need to keep negotiating. We don't have any problems with them and no reason not to renew.
Renewal.
Yeah.
You want to put it in the backyard?
I was thinking 10 years a lot better than
30 for.
I agree.
I,
I think that's a good move.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes in 30 years.
And the difference on the 1%, yeah, 4 and 5% isn't a
No.
huge deal in my mind. It's really not like a big revenue source that we depend on, but having that 4% escalator still makes it seem
oh yeah, desirable.
appropriate. Like we don't want to just not keep up with inflation and those sort of things, so.
I think you got a good deal there, Todd.
How many different providers are on that?
I'm not sure.
But they all run through this company?
Yep, they all lease through that company, yeah. So,
I think you're on track, Ty.
okay, we'll
Looks good.
Thank you.
work on that. That's all my updates.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for your input and this meeting is adjourned.
I'll be, yep. I would thought.
So did I.